So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into here. We're gonna talk about this. So how do I know the function is increasing and decreasing? By just what we know right now. What'd you say?
If like the x is positive or negative.
What?
Never mind. The slope is positive or negative?
Slope is positive, negative. Good job.
Thank you.
So
Slope is simultaneously not
so if
not
f prime of x is greater than 0 for all x in a comma b, then f of x is increasing at a comma b. If f prime of x is less than 0 for all x in a and b, then f of x is decreasing in a and b. Is that okay? If f prime of x is equal to 0, then f is constant, which is a horizontal line or horizontal slope. Is that okay? Wait, what the hell are you doing? So interesting. I'm seeing a bit trying to put foot on top of it. It's so weird. One weird kid.
What can you do? What? Oh, what? Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the first derivative can tell me the function increasing or decreasing, but it's slightly different than first derivative test. So first derivative is positive, the function is increasing. The first derivative is negative, function is decreasing. The first derivative is a constant, then it's not increasing nor decreasing, it's just a constant. So, but there's a difference between this and the first derivative test. So first derivative test. And remember, AP exam love this. Okay? AP exam loves this because especially AP exam is gonna ask you FRQ, they're gonna ask you to find out where the maximum is, and they say, can you justify this is a maximum? Then you're gonna write down a statement from the first derivative test. You don't even have to do math. You just have to write down what they want you to read or what want you to write. So the first one is gonna be this. If f prime of x change from positive to negative. So f prime of x changing from positive to negative. Then do you have relative maximum or minimum?
Relative maximum. Because if it starts max and then changes, that means it was going up and now it's going down. Which
Yeah,
means
good.
it's pointy.
Okay, then f has relative minimum. Oh, sorry, maximum, sorry. At C and f of C. 2. Same thing, if f prime of x hinge from negative to positive, then f has relative minimum at C comma f of C at that point. Now sometimes you do have no changes. Let's say if f prime of x is positive on both sides of C, and or negative on both sides of C, then f of C is neither maximum or minimum. So if you're decreasing and decreasing again, that doesn't mean it's a minimum, right? You can have negative and then negative again, so kind of like a waterfall, right? That's not gonna have a minimum. That's a kind of like my stock portfolio, like this.
Actually, that is technically grammatically incorrect. You're supposed to do the nor there. Instead of that or.
It says or on the textbook, so I don't know. Oh, no, or it's nor here, yeah.
Nor.
Questions.
Grammar that's more relevant to programming and then seriously, ignore it. We didn't have
So what if I have this function x cubed minus 3 over 2 x squared? Now I don't have an interval. I just need you to find out which regions increasing, which regions decreasing, which increasing, and also where's the maximum minimum occur. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start by taking derivative, which is everybody should know how to take a derivative by now. So the 2 and 2 cancel, that's gonna be 3x. Is that okay? I'm gonna set it equal to 0. Why do I need to set it equal to 0? Because I want to find a critical point. I'm gonna factor out 3x and x minus 1. So that's gonna be x is equal to 0, x is equal to 1. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a number line test. And we've done at the very beginning of the year. I told you the whole chapter is based on that. So that one question I was really emphasized on. 0 and 1 here. And I write down the factor, this is a factor. I write down on the left-hand side of the graph. And also write down this is negative infinity to infinity. And I'll start plugging the point between the number lines. So now, if I plug in negative infinity to 0, what's a good number to plug in? -1. So what happens if I plug in -1 into 3x?
-3.
I don't care about it's -3. I only care about what sign is it.
Negative.
So that's sign. That's negative. -1 minus 1 is what? If I plug in -1 into here, that's gonna give you a negative. So negative times negative is positive. So I'm gonna write down it's increasing because this is f prime of x. F prime of x is positive, it's increasing. Is that okay? And I'm gonna plug in 0.5. Is that positive or negative? Plug in 0.5 into here. Positive. Plug in 0.5 here. So it's gonna be end up being negative because it's gonna be negative. If I plug in 2, then it's gonna be positive and positive and positive. So it's gonna be decreasing and increasing. So guess what? If I says this number line, I'm gonna say this again. Number line is not justification for maximum minimum. You must write down the statement. So you can say negative infinity to 0, union 1 to infinity, the f of x is increasing. And from 0 to 1, not including 0 and 1 because they're not really increasing or decreasing, is decreasing. Is that okay? And if you want to justify, you can say that's f prime of x is positive. It's greater than 0. And f prime of x is less than 0. So that's a justify. Right? Now what happened at 0? 0 is what? 0 is what? Is what? Huh? No.
Maximum.
Relative maximum. Thank you. Why? Because you go up and come back down.
That's the part where it changes from increasing to decreasing.
Yeah.
That's
This
the
is a relative
minimum.
minimum. And so if I says x equal to 0 is relative maximum, and the AP exam says justify that's the maximum, you're gonna say f prime of x change from positive to negative at C. Therefore, C comma f of C is relative maximum. And that's what you're gonna write on AP exam for as justification goes. Very easy point. Anybody can earn this point. But you have to write it in this sentence. You don't need to write essays. I remember one kid, he was super smart. His name is Saul a long time ago. On FRQ, he write like 6-page essays. I'm like, no, you only need one sentence. It's not AP Lang. Or it's not AP Euro. It's one sentences on FRQ. Yes.
You only write that last part, or do you have to read the negative infinity to 0 union stuff too? Is it just that
No, if they ask you increasing and decreasing, then you just say f prime of x is greater than 0. Or f prime of x is less than 0. If they ask you x equal to 0 is what? You're going to say it's relative maximum. And they say justify, then you're going to say f prime of x changing from positive to negative at C. Therefore, at C, f comma C is the relative maximum. Or at 1 in this case. Or at 0 in this case, yeah. Does that make sense? Obviously, x equal to 1 is a relative minimum because f prime of x change from negative to positive at x equal to 1. Therefore, 1 comma f of 1 is relative min. And that's how you're gonna state it on the exam. Is this okay? Now, as far as the number line test goes, sometimes it can be different. It's not always plus minus plus. It could be different. Okay? So I'm gonna show you a case that might be different. How much time I have? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I have a lot of time. Okay, so for example, you guys want to try this question?
Is that 27?
Yeah. Now I will say this. Normally on algebra, if leading coefficient is negative, factor out a negative. Always. And we'll talk about this particular question in a bit. This one's gonna be 27 minus 3x squared, right? If I set 0 equal to 3x squared minus 3x squared plus 27, so that's gonna give you 3x squared equal to 27, x squared equal to 9, x equal to plus minus 3. Do you guys get that? However, when you look at this, you must write it negative 3x squared plus 27, and you must factor out a negative 3 minus 9. Is that okay? And that's equal to negative 3 times x minus 3 and x plus 3. Now what happened is that is gonna including negative 3 to 3, right? I told you it's not gonna be plus and minus plus. Negative 3 is part of it. Is that okay? X plus 3 and x minus 3 is part of it. Now, the first one I don't need to plug in, but I know negative 3 is going to contribute negative sign on all of them. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't matter what I plug in, it's always negative 3. Is that okay? If I plug in negative 4, it's going to give you negative. If negative 4 minus 3 is negative, so it's going to be negative. If you plug in 0, it's going to be positive, negative, it's going to be positive. There's a positive, positive, it's going to be negative. So it's decreasing, increasing, decreasing. So it's not always positive, negative, positive. Sometimes it could be everything negative. You're going to have those cases. Everything's negative. So therefore, does this make sense or no? Always factor out a first leading coefficient because the negative sign is going to contribute to every part of the line. And it's going to affect everything evenly. Sometimes I have seen number lines all negative. I've seen number lines all positive. I've seen number line positive, positive, negative, negative. So you need a base on your number line test. You cannot just always assume it's always positive, negative, positive. In the first test, everybody did, oh yeah, just positive, negative, positive. No, that's not true. The truth is you actually have to test those number, then you have to get this. So it'd be decreasing at negative infinity to negative 3, union from 3 to infinity. Increasing at negative 3 to 3. And if you want a justification, just f prime of x is less than 0, f prime of x is greater than 0. Is that okay? What happened at x equal to -3? Is maximum or minimum? Minimum is relative minimum because f prime of x change from what? Negative to positive. And that's how you justify at x equal to -3. And that's how you justify that. If you have it, that's your justification. What AP exam does not agree with you when you says look at the number line test, because they do not look at your number line test. Your number line test is your guidance, how to write that statement. It does not mean a justification. AP exam does not give you a point for draw a correct number line test. They only give you correct point for justification point only if you write down that particular statement. And that statement is not long, it's one sentence. You're not gonna have a hand cramp when you take an AP Calc. That only happened in AP Lit. I see everybody's like this. But this year they probably ask you to type, right? So this year you're not gonna have that. This year's be. I feel like everybody's gonna finish early this year. You ready, right? I can imagine proctoring that room. It's gonna be like everybody is gonna be like. But they probably gonna think that's your fault. Huh?
So it's 3 the relative maximum.
It's 3 is relative maximum, yes. Is this okay?